Welcome to the Outer Realm with MicheleDerocher and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey for the last 5 years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces of any type. So tonight is going to be really fun and laid back because I have one of my dear friends on the show tonight. And he's also a fellow host of Becoming Quantum Conscious Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't checked him out, shame on you. You should have. But anyway, never too late. Never too late. So you'll have to do that. And I'm really looking forward to the episode. I see people chiming in, which is great. Hello, Mark. Hello. Hello, Carol Ann. Also a host on our network. Yes, Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. There it is. Fridays, new show, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time. And those are also a new time slot for her. And then the regular time slot, which is Thursdays at 5 p.m. There we go. Vivre la vie. Hello and welcome. Hello, Kazan. Hello. So waiting for people to chime in. We are live on these platforms. Just want to give you guys a heads up because some of you guys are looking for UFO Paranormal on YouTube. Guys, channel is gone for now. So that's a story and a half, but it's not there. So please go to UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. And of course, here on The Outer Realm, Facebook, The Outer Realm, that live there. iCar, it's live there. We are on X. Yes, I can see your comments. We are on Rumble. Yes, I can see your comments there as well. So please don't be shy. Put them up. We are also on Roku. I know it's a bit funky from the soundboard point of view, but apparently it's just fine on Roku. So we know that you guys are seeing us there as well. Hello, troublemaker. So anyway, without further ado, my dear friend and colleague, Bart Sharp. Hello.
Hi, Michelle. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just so looking forward to this evening because Michelle is so unpredictable, as you probably know if you listen to this show. And when I visit with her, it's like an unpredictable time where we go anywhere and everywhere. And what a pleasure it is to kind of have some of the same venues about it at one of my favorite places and your favorite places,
Yes.
Southern France.
Southern France. How did you know? I know. How did you know? However, you get to spend a lot more time there than I get or have gotten to spend.
The privilege of being a bachelor.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
You have all of those lovely grandchildren and a wonderful husband and sons and daughters and big family and happy Canada. So,
but Canada's not so happy. But I'll tell you, I've always, even with all of that, I've always traveled. But there was a certain little man that, came into my life 5 years ago. And after that, it changed things. Because if he wasn't there, I would own a home in the south of France. The little man changed the game. So,
Oh,
I know that was just it. It's like, no, I just can't leave you.
yes, yes. We've had this discussion
We
before about
have.
why the hell are you still in the United States, brother? And it's kind of like France's paradise, and it
Yes.
expands you
Yes.
in ways that you can ever imagine because of the power spots and the energy of the land. And as Annie Williams says, it's the composition of the land, the red dirt, the crystals, the copper, and other minerals that activate all of this stuff. But it's
Mhm.
much more than that. It's much more ancient. But you have all of that in France, and then you have the United States, and it's like somebody has to work on the frying pan on the fire, and that's part of my job too.
Mhm.
We gotta
It's
we
it's a
gotta
tough job, Bart. It's a tough job.
well,
What the hell?
United States is like itching for consciousness on some levels. And they really are.
Yeah, yeah.
And God bless them. And where I live in Austin, Texas, I really see that. So I
Mm,
teach classes and do various stuff here
yes.
and try to put it out there. Just
Mhm,
like becoming quantum conscious and the
mhm,
outer realm is always challenging people to think differently, hear
mhm,
different words or different thoughts and compositions.
mhm.
And our fearless leader, Joe Maltado, seems to let us get away with all of this stuff
It
instead
really
of.
does. I have an edge though, Bart, because I get to manage the network. So I tend to be a little bit more, let's say, flexible with everyone. Joe just kind of looks at me and goes, "Oh boy, okay." I know. So, just I think this sort of stuff is great. I love people to just be who they are and do their best. As long as we're not aggravating people, I'm like, perfect. Let's just do it. Right. So, by the way, guys, I made a prediction last night, because of the topic that, okay, as soon as I announce something, I'll probably lose people. I did. Absolutely. So, but that's okay. I called it. But I'll make them all back tonight because I've got Bart, and Bart's always so delightful. So, anyway, where do you want to start? I mean, the south of France to me, oh my God, it's just one of these places that it stays with you. Like you don't just go there, you become one with it. And there's certain
Yeah.
places in the world I think that I always say I don't just go to places because I always go to places that I resonate with, and that's for a reason. Do you
Hmm.
find the same thing with yourself?
Once you get the itch, you can't scratch it enough.
No.
Uh,
Mm,
and it all started with me with my father dying, and suddenly I had this freedom because I wanted to be there and just be available because I knew his time was coming in a 5 year span.
mhm.
Never traveled, never went abroad, and then I said I can live any place I want to for an extended period of time. It wasn't
Mhm.
because I was getting this big inheritance or anything,
Right.
but I did have money, so Southern France kept calling for accidents upon accidents.
Mhm.
And then I get this reference to contact this woman named Corinne, this exotic, beautiful French woman about
Mhm.
my age,
Mhm.
slender as a board, speaks in this delicious English, French oriented accent.
Mhm.
You know, we became fast friends, but she lived right across the street from Pic de Bogarache, which is a Stargate mountain,
Right.
comparable to Mount Shasta, the volcano in Maui, Machu Picchu,
Mhm.
Palenque. All of those places are stargates. In other
Mhm.
words, they have all
Mhm.
of these cosmic energies, UFOs,
Mhm.
energies from other planets, star systems entering into the mountain itself.
Mhm.
It's highly charged.
Yes. Yes. We've
Yeah.
we've we've actually, worked at because we both do energy work every week, planetary stuff. And it's one of those places that we spent quite a bit of time at because it is so incredible. I always say though, the Languedoc area of France itself seems to have a lot of that sort of activity with a lot of hidden gems as well. But Bucharest just sets out and goes, I'm here. It's very imposing. It's like, there's no missing me. Right.
Yeah, it's beyond lithium batteries, that's for sure, about how it
Yeah.
charges everything in the area. And that's what stargates do. There's ley lines that run out from them, and they go to other sites and they triangulate. Freddie Silva does a lot of great writing on this, of saying triangles. They start power spots go in triangles, and each part of the triangle has a purpose. One might be the energy charger, has the energetic charge. One might be a grounding source, and one might be what the triangle is actually trying to present to the world. And so they work in that type of dynamics. And, you know, whether it's the Giza Pyramid, Avebury Stone Circle, or Pic de Bucharest, they're charging all of Europe, Middle East, places like that.
Wherever the ley lines travel to.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good 60s rock and roll song. Wherever the ley lines travel, I'll be coming home to you.
Okay. There you go. You're going to cut that one for us?
Oh, yeah.
I see a hit. I see a hit.
I know. I feel Bob Dylan inside me right now. I'm going to channel him. Yeah. God bless Bob. Congratulations on the new movie. Yeah. Yeah. One of
Remember,
my
you guys, you heard it here first.
So living at Corinne's was incredible, because some mornings you'd be eating breakfast and you'd feel a charge of electricity just rivet through your body with that. And however, I never saw any UFOs. I would be visiting with French people, and everyone would have their little cell phones and with the cameras and stuff, and they would flip through their phones and show, you know, favorite shots of UFOs that they picked up. And it was all entertaining, and I could feel them. I knew they were there, and, you know, I kept asking, but wasn't receiving. However, I went down to the town. There's a small town at the base of the mountain called Bucharest, of course. And there's a lake, you know, just a small lake. And on the dam, that's where I found a place where the veils are very thin. And so I would take people out there, or I'd go by myself, or even take tour groups at night. And we were seeing almost like a plethora of unidentified flying objects. Some going in straight lines, and they would, you know, come out of the darkness of the night, and they'd just be popping up, and they'd go across the sky, get to one location, pop back out again. Various different patterns, various flashes of lights popping out of the mountain unexplainably, that were, you know, what you would think would be the size of a large searchlight. And this was just a typical night at the Pic de Bucharest, Magic Mountain. The locals, I love what the locals call it, Le Boug.
Ah, nice.
Le Boug.
It just sounds so sophisticated.
Mon chéri, aller à la Le Boug.
Nice. It's funny because I do speak French, and when I was in France, even when I was in France, they were trying to figure out what the hell I was trying to say because it's a totally different type of French. You know, it really is. When people are just like, oh, it's French, how bad could it be? No, it's a whole different world of French. You know, I'm trying to explain about how, you know, because one of my sons had come with me, and he's vegan. But they don't, you know, I'm just going to say he's lactose intolerant. So just use a different, like, don't put cheese on the pizza sort of thing. Because for those who know me, I eat pizza anywhere I go in the world. I want to know what their pizza tastes like. So we're putting that aside. I'm trying to explain that, you know, my son is lactose intolerant. And they're looking at me going, and I got the motion going. Oh, bad stomach, no to the milk. Like I'm really, really putting a lot of effort into it. But it's just like no matter how I said it, it was just like, it's like, okay, I've got to go and learn Parisian or French, because it's much different in the West, apparently. So
Oh
okay,
yes,
we'll go with that.
yes. It's all in those vowels, how you can pronounce them sensually. I have
Yes.
this theory that French is the language of angels. And this is just a
See?
crackpot theory. And that if you read Lars Moll,
Yes.
particularly Law of Light, that's a great book. Lars is
Mhm.
that's his best book, by the way. Amazing guy. And he talks about the angels taught humans Aramaic, as that was the language of angels.
Yes.
And Aramaic was then passed down to those who were in the ruling class.
Mhm.
And, the priests and the rulers and all the high elites spoke this form of Aramaic that eventually was called Occitan.
Mhm.
Occitan, of course, became French. And
Yes.
so that's my progression. I've told that to some of my French historian friends, and they just scoff at me like,
Wow.
no, no.
No. Some
I think,
people just like we were here first.
yeah,
you know.
it's like, where's your
I
sense
love
of
it though.
adventure?
I know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
But but for those who aren't aware, in the Languedoc area, the south of France is a place made famous by the Da Vinci Code, which is Rennes Le Chateau. Now that is a place that holds so much mystery that it's funny because my son looked at me and he said, "Why does it feel so wrong leaving this place?" I said, "I know."
Mm.
And he's very, very intuitive, often too cool to admit to being intuitive, but he's just, he's very intuitive. But he said everything feel about leaving here feels wrong to me. It's like, I know.
You should have
What
bought that house.
I know. If it was right in Rennes, I would have. Because a lot of my ancestors bought up land around Rennes Le Chateau. Now, why would that be? Why would a whole town from northern France save up and go in and buy land around this incredible place going back hundreds and hundreds of years ago? And by the way, a Templar town where a lot of some of the original
Yeah.
Grand Masters came from.
And also, the Templars, when you look at their fortress and their Templar town, they make a triangle around Rennes Le Chateau, which is right in the middle.
See?
Yeah, I have a friend who just bought a house about a year ago there, and
Hmm.
it's right beside the church.
Hmm.
And I came in, and she's just a fascinating woman. She was on my show about 6 months ago, Angelique
Hmm.
Pigenet.
Yes.
And when you go into her living room, you look down on the floor, and there is a big square of plexiglass. And you go, well, what's this for? And she flips on a switch, and of course, you can see down probably two flights of cave opening,
Hmm.
or two levels of cave. And then, it's, of course, being the intuitive I am, I'm sitting there and I'm feeling the vibration. And it
Hmm.
feels like a golden energy coming up that's supercharged,
Hmm.
and it's just flowing all the time as
Hmm.
she reports. And it's like, well, how do you live here? I mean, it's like
What?
this is
Yeah.
more charged than the church itself. My God.
But it's like
Uh,
the museum, right? The museum right attached to the church has one of those also.
exactly. It's all this underground system that pops up in homes throughout that very small community, of that system at the top of this hill.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, nobody really speaks about it.
No.
I mean, Angelique has a dynamic bed and breakfast. If you want to be supercharged, you can
Hmm.
rent a room in her house and be
But
charged by that.
there's
And
no access to the caves anywhere. Like even the French government, like sort of bombed or they shut off one exit on the outside of the mountain.
Yeah, well, it's private property. I imagine they're
It
going to have to
is.
go through a lot of stuff to get there, and which the French, what I've learned is, they can intrude if they want to. Let's
Hmm.
just put it that way. Yeah, it's such a magical place, and
Yeah.
it really is like this place. Nobody really knows how old it is. In fact, that's very true about France in general. Of all of these sacred sites, we can't identify. Some people will say, "Oh, this is 10,000 years old or 20,000 years old," but the more we learn, those dates get older and older and older. Uh,
Hmm.
300,000-year-old teeth were found in a nearby area, Touchon, which is in Catalonia, or the Catalan region of France,
Hmm.
uh, 45 miles down the road.
Hmm.
So it's an old place, and Ridley Chateau has been this old sacred peak
Hmm.
for who knows how long. It
Well,
always
the
feels like
Romans, it was a Roman fortress, I believe, for a while.
it
The
was.
Visigoths, I think, was it? No, I think it's been some
Well,
time.
no,
There is a lot.
yeah. Well, the Visigoths were they worked with the Romans, but the
Yes.
Romans betrayed them, and
Yes.
they were the first group of people to
Hmm.
sack Rome. You know, the bond did not last long, though the Visigoths did work
Hmm.
with them
Hmm.
from time to time. Um, so they came back, and where did they take their booty from sacking Rome? But back to Rennes Le Chateau.
Hmm.
This is the first sacking of Rome, if I didn't mention that.
Hmm.
But it's older than that. I mean, everything gets dated by when it was Catholicized, all
Yes.
too often.
Hmm.
And that's the truth with Rennes Le Chateau.
Hmm.
However, that's a church of ISIS. I mean, I would take that statistic and take it to Vegas and gamble on it.
Yes,
It's
I
it's
agree with you. I agree with you.
it is ISIS.
Hmm.
And what is the purpose? That is the real thing. I mean, everybody goes, "Oh, that's a nice little church there. That'll enlighten you." Let's
Well,
think bigger.
Well, I think if you're getting back into goddess energy, people don't realize because they talk about Mary Magdalene and she does have a strong presence in the church and so on. But you also have to realize that in the world of goddesses, Mary Magdalene and Isis are almost one as per the culture, like
Yeah.
culturally speaking, right?
It's funny how nobody can really, well, everybody thinks they're the expert on Mary Magdalene because when they
Hmm.
tell you their stories, most people will say, "This is the truth." And I'm rolling my eyes like nobody really knows the truth. But
Hmm.
I really am persuaded that there is
Hmm.
an Isis, Inanna,
Hmm.
ancient
Hmm.
goddess connection with all of this.
Hmm.
I mean, she's beyond just a nice little Jewish girl.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. But it was not uncommon, I think, for the ancients to build around power spots, stargates. They seemed to be quite aware when they would come into a powerful area. I think they were so much more in tune, like the indigenous people in different parts of the world. They're very in tune with the planet. They're very in tune with their space. And I think with that being said, they knew where to go. They knew where to build. I think this is why we have places like Rennes Le Chateau. All of these old temples, some of these old temples now have cathedrals, churches. Like they all knew. See, the church knew
Mm-hmm.
we're going
Mm-hmm.
to build here because we know exactly what is on this site.
It,
It just wasn't an uncommon thing.
it wasn't, and they'd always put the altar on the power spot almost all the time.
Hmm.
And of course, the only person in the old days that could touch that was the priest. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
talk about a real
Hmm.
macho thing there. And of
Yeah.
course, when you go in today, unless it's a church that's owned or managed and is funding priests, in other
Hmm.
words, they're getting a community that actually pays the bills for the priest to come,
Hmm.
those churches are more like community centers. There's definitely a separation between church and state in France, and that's been happening for 140, 150 years, something like that. That happens. So yes, and in most of the churches, you can go and put your hands on the altar and summon stuff up, and they're all very powerful, or not all of them, but there's a selected amount of churches. I like to call them feminine churches. They're the ones that were created and they were connected to the earth. I
The
don't think
feminine
all
energy.
I don't think all churches are like that. Just when you talk about the Catholic Protestant world of churches in the at least in the United States, and what I know about in France, some
Well, I
of
mean,
them are not that
you
away.
have priests on an average. I think back in the days of the temples and so on, and maybe some of the earlier churches may have you had a lot of goddess worship. A lot of that changed
Absolutely.
when the church came into play. It was very, very widespread, but you still had,
It's
that common belief.
it's funny how that's all bleeded through
Mm,
in France, particularly because when you go to the Provence region, which is kind of the midsection of France along the coastline, this would be
mhm,
Marseille, Arles,
mhm,
right in the middle. Uh, the patron saint of that area is Mary Magdalene, and she's
mhm,
very much revered
mhm.
in the churches, and you walk down the streets, and
Well, there are statues as well, right?
yeah, that there's
Yeah.
statues everywhere. It's not Mother Mary, which you know, I don't get me wrong. I am a big Mother Mary fan. I'm a
Mhm,
believer. I've been in her presence. I drink the holy water, and
mhm,
she is the real deal.
mhm,
However, Magdalene to have that uh, presence
mhm,
and that notoriety and worship
mhm,
is kind of exceptional because in the third century with the oh gosh, when the Roman general or ruler Constantinople pulled everybody together in the third century and got the Jesus priests to come together and say, okay, we're going to change the rules here. You're not going to exactly teach the teachings of Jesus that way anymore.
right.
Uh, so
Yes.
he gave them a choice of, get with my program or
Mm.
you won't come
There's
back home at all.
there we go. I do think that there is I mean, I find this Mark's comment. I found down the south of France, there was a vibe, magical feeling that you could feel, something very, very unique. It is very unique. And I do think that once you've been there is no real way to describe it. Like you really do just become one with it because the frequencies there, the vibrations, if you can match it or if you're willing to allow yourself to take it in, because this is part of your tours. You take people to these magical places and you teach them and let them experience the vibrations of these places, the frequencies. And they seem to just some of them go through some pretty impressive transformations.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And
You're welcome.
it's
I
kind
work
of
with
like
you. I know.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
going from the map to the territory, the real thing. I mean, you can
Yeah.
tell the histories and the stories and the Magdalene stuff and dress in white and do all of that stuff that
Mm,
says, "Oh, I'm on the holy quest."
mhm,
But there's a real difference that when something penetrates you and expands your body, the space inside of you changes. And
mhm,
that's when you start to cross over into a higher realm.
mhm,
It's almost like the difference. Well, I'll just say about my Catholic upbringing. I was Catholic for about 5 or 6 years. I was a
mhm,
practicing Catholic, which is
mhm,
all new to me. I was doing this in my mid 30s.
mhm,
And you're doing the rosary, you're going to mass and doing these rituals, and you're just inking your way slowly to get to this higher state of being. because it does feel good to say the rosary. And people have been doing it for eons, much longer than,
Do
the
you think
life
it's
of
intention,
Jesus.
more intention and mindset trying to
I think it's about ritual and asking for a higher source
right,
to come in, and thus you create it. And something with the touching and the beads and the repetitiveness and your own intention.
like the mantra though through Buddhism?
Exactly. It
Yeah.
all happens in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And those are very honorable and great ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
However, going to a power spot and activating and knowing how to activate them
Mm-hmm.
is like sticking your finger in the light socket and letting it rivet through your body.
Yes, that's a good
And
way to
yes,
put it.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's like that, and it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And and after 10 days of it, you're going, wow, that was great. And what I keep telling people is, well, you can keep coming back, or you can pick up rocks from the site, you can
Mm-hmm.
take photos, but you want to relive it and retrain your body to where all of that exists. I mean, think about how much we practice anger and frustration and
Mm-hmm.
all of these roles that we were taught to play as children, of dysfunctional roles.
Mm-hmm.
We're the shame child, or the critic, or and certain emotional sequences happen in our body, and we are trained to do those, and we keep practicing that training.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we don't like it, it's just automatic. It's a knee-jerk reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can take the spiritual energy and do the same thing, and create a different space.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
fact, you can take your knee-jerk reactions, I want to say, and shove it, like the Johnny Paycheck song, but no, you can take your knee-jerk reactions and transcend them with light, and
Mm-hmm.
start changing them more dynamically.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
would be one of the purpose of going to any sacred sites. Or if you're not going to France, there are sacred sites all over the
All
world.
over the
Or if
world.
you're not traveling, you could just go down to your neighborhood forest and sit by a
Yes,
tree and have a good relationship with a tree, and it'll teach you wonders.
it's
There's lots of
true.
ways, folks.
Well, it's true. I mean, you get into, spiritualism and the spiritualist church, for example, it is very much an outdoorsy thing. You go in, you learn how to ground. You look at trees, they have their own communication system. They're happy to exchange energy with you. The old term is hug a tree, like the tree huggers. It's a thing because you can exchange this amazing, right? This amazing energy with it. You can create your own power spots,
Indeed.
right?
And to me, this is a lot about connecting back to the earth, whether it be a power spot, a
Mm-hmm.
church that is really connected to the earth. It's
Mm-hmm.
flowing the earth energy up, and naturally, you could call it goddess energy if you like, or
Mm-hmm.
Gaia, or just plain dirt that it's connected to. But it's doing the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I love
I'm-
computers.
mhm.
However, there's times to go outside and really know where your biggest connection is, your natural connection.
And it will pull you, won't it? Like
Yeah.
it just the areas that you resonate with you will feel a pull to those places. That
And
happens to me a lot in my travels, and I never want to leave. I don't even like. I mean, I'm here, but I always said I'm very old world, and I surround myself with old world because I think it's how I compensate for the fact that I do resonate so much with these places.
But I'll tell you a little secret about Michelle, folks.
Uh-oh. Oh, here we go.
her
Blah
energy,
blah blah.
her energy is so friggin' big. When I get in conversations with her, it's like astounding. So if you listen to Michelle regularly, just tune into that vibrational energy that she is, and ask your body to take some of that in. You're not stealing from her. You're just learning the vibration. And if you start asking and tuning into it, that changes start happening, because she's basically a badass when it comes to energy work.
Well, thank you. I don't mind sharing my energy. If you try to take it without permission in an aggressive way, you might get a bit of an energy slap, but otherwise,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like
you
we're
know.
all gods and goddesses. that we are
Yes.
infinite beings. And so the infinite side, and when Michelle says we're going to, work this energy here, and she expands out into that, it's huge. And of course, she's doing the same thing over the airways. One of the reasons that she probably has such a big show is that she's a big person energetically.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for all your kindness. Yeah. I do love energy work though, and I love it because I love melding with other terrific energies as well. And when you're tapping into, especially ancient energy, I just find when you tap into it, you just somehow you can pick up on this infinite wisdom that comes with it. So when you're melding with that and your exchange, I look at energy work as an exchange, not that you're going in that you just manipulate it, but I always leave a piece of myself wherever I go, and I try to bring a piece back. And I freaking love mountains. Bart's like, I'm going to send you a couple rocks from the mountains. Yay! Doesn't take much to please me, man. It's a rock. Okay.
Yeah.
But I love it. I always bring stones back or soil from anywhere I travel. So I cherish these. I love them. And I love to meditate with them because rocks, they do hold that energy. They have their own frequency, you know?
They do. And they will teach you. Just hold one and go into a meditation and ask your body to learn that vibration. Feel it in your body, and then pay attention to it and teach your body to expand. Like your whole
Mhm.
body's vibration becomes the same as that rock. To
Yes,
me, this is just like learning a new language.
it is. It is. And I know, you know what's really cool, and I don't know if you've ever tried this in some of these ancient places you're at. I know in Sean Williamson, he's been on our show a few times, and he's a stonemason, but I mean, back to bare basics, ancient type of stonemason. And we got talking about how rocks and stone it's not just energy, but when you look at, and of course we were talking about Templars, but it would be the same thing in churches with choirs, for example, and music and energy, but they have sound resonance. You could go into a stone church or a building, round temples where the Templars are, and you just put your recorder on, just do a voice recorder, put it on your phone, whatever. You can pick up on like an imprint in time that's just stamped into them.
Mm-hmm.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous. You could do it with old pottery. People have actually pulled up, through excavations, some being underwater, some old ancient sites. And when they can do energy work with them, and you can play them like an album sometimes, and you can actually pick up on, I think I read one article, somebody picked up like on a conversation. They just little bits, the words were fragmented, of course. But the fact that something imprinted into this thing was just unbelievable. It's all freaking amazing. Everything has a vibration and a frequency, is what I'm trying to say.
It is. And just think about your own house with that, about people who have lived there previously,
Yes.
and your own vibration in your home.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you always feel so comfortable there, because you get to come home to you, basically. But also, when you get your intentions to summoning in various other beings,
Mm-hmm.
it changes and makes it even more dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I mean, since I've been doing Boogarosh and been listening to Joe and Michelle's shows and getting to know their points of view, it really came to me as like, well, why am I not asking ET to be above my house and to have that connection with it?
Yeah.
And of course, when I go out to Boogarosh, what we were doing, and this was basically staying in a circle and activating our own light embodiment by just visualizing light in our body and
Mm-hmm.
pumping all of that up, and then sending it up like a beam of light and asking the ETs to connect with us, and we welcome them in, and this is our signal, and please connect. Now, of course, nobody has dropped their ship down and hopped out of the ship and said, hey, or anything. However, my mind has speeded up ever since I've done those exercises. I'm quicker, I'm sharper. And somebody in their 60s, this is a extra benefit because, we just get slower in our minds, or some people do. And I find it like kind of inconvenient. So I'm trying to, get something bigger happening. And I think the ETs have helped me in that progression, because I felt different. I did this 7 or 8 times this summer of going out to the mountain, sitting at the tank down by the lake and communing and asking. Not only does it make you star-stoned,
Yeah.
it changes you.
It does. As an experiencer, I can tell you it does change you. And there are places, there's so much about ET that we don't understand, but we know that some of them are already here. So you're picking up on energies that are ancient, and they really do try to work with us to better our own abilities. And it is, Alan lost me at ET. Well, you have to have an understanding of ET energy and how it works. And sometimes tapping into that energy, and we all have the ability, but some people just don't quite, they don't use it. They don't want to learn how to use it. But it is, in working with it myself and having meditated on it, having been given, visions and downloads, and you realize how much they really are trying to get us to evolve, even telepathically. Not all ETs are bad. It's like not all people are bad. You have good, you have bad. It's the same thing in every race. It doesn't matter what it is. And we understand exactly what they are. I don't know that we do. I think we understand what maybe some of them are, but our Minister of Defense, Paul Hillier in Canada, who's passed away now, at one point had said that there were over 100 different races. How do you think we have an understanding of all of that? We don't.
Whoa.
And he's a defense minister. Like, he had an idea. And in his later years, when he retired, he did a lot of interviews. And we're in an age of it whistleblowing, so a lot of things are starting to come out. But how can we understand what they are when we don't even know how many there are? We're going based on people's experiences. And a lot of those are human induced. They're not really ET induced. So I think we need to, if you can tap into that energy, you realize that, it's pretty incredible when you're dealing with the right race. And when you're dealing with these power spots, you really do get to experience some incredible variety of different types of energy. And that's just one of them.
Yeah, I just think of it just very multi-complex. And one of my favorite books is Anna Grandmother of Jesus by Claire Hartson.
Yes.
Great book, Anna's story. Highly recommended. But she just mentioned, she has these little paragraphs or maybe a page on one particular subject that just stimulates you enough to make you think about it and just wonder, what that was like. And one of those is Jesus went to a cave in India and spent, a couple of years there, and he was communing with Babaji. Now, Babaji is a ascended master type, very, very old. This is not one of the young ascended masters. They don't really know. But Babaji is kind of the ascended master if you want to space travel.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so what did Jesus do in India? Maybe he space traveled. Maybe he was learning all of these different things beyond us. And if you learn a reality in your mind, because that's what meditation is, you're basically teaching your mind what the body is absorbing. And the body absorbs a lot more than what the mind is aware of all the time. And that's the constant awareness practice that we all do. So we take that forward to the Provence region, which I mentioned before, to Grotte St. Balm.
Mm-hmm.
This is the famous cave where they said Mary Magdalene did her sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
She lived there. And, there's a lot of controversy. Was that Mary Magdalene? Was it not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But what I do know is somebody high powered was in that cave, because when you go into this cave, uh, and you go to this one particular bench and you look into the rock, it feels like you go into outer space.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people tell me, oh, she traveled all the levels of heaven to the highest realms,
Hmm.
and that there's a church at the top of this cave, and there actually is a church. But
Mm-hmm.
that was what she held. She would go up into the church and then go up into the upper realms. That was her daily journey to get to this
Wow.
highly enlightened state.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that we have two highly enlightened people, maybe Magdalene, maybe somebody say it's a Mary the Egyptian,
Mm-hmm.
another story, but somebody was there doing some tremendous work, because when you become a highly evolved being like that, and you take your soul and your body and your spirit and travel in presence in one spot for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
it stays. And we know this with Buddha in the tree that he meditated
Mm-hmm.
at. That tree is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
This is the gift that these ascended masters give us, is they imprint. And that is one of the best imprinted places I've ever been, Grotte Saint Baume in
Mm-hmm.
Provence.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But isn't it funny? Like, what is it about caves? The Apostle Mark spent time in caves. John the Baptist spent time in caves. What is it? Because you spend time in caves.
I love caves.
I know. So, what is it about the caves? Is it because there's this resonance? So you can call out, you can sing, you can chant, and it just resonates. It creates a frequency. Perhaps. What is it about?
Well, that's the theory with it, but uh, not all caves are like that. There's some caves that are not
Mhm.
magical,
Right.
and most of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them that may be on a ley line or something, maybe that's the opening, and
Mm-hmm.
people of grand intensity that had a high vibration took the time to travel, and thus almost created a form of I don't want to call it a ley line, but like a travel channel
Right.
that you can go down, like not like a TV channel, but
Mm-hmm.
like a channel that you can follow down into certain place. And that is a characteristic that I see in several caves,
Mm-hmm.
is that type of opening.
Mm-hmm.
Something is either coming up to us, or we're going down into
Mm-hmm.
another reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of pioneered by our forefathers, so to speak.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it. It's just they were much more. They had a really fantastic um, idea as to how things work. Like if you're just getting into um, things with, for example, let's go with stained glass that you see in all of these churches, all of these incredible establishments. They were done for a reason, because that's so when the light hit them and hit the certain colors, it did something to your energy. It could heal you. It could, evolve you. The same thing with, again, with stone. The same thing with, for example, bells. Here's something I'll share with you guys that a lot of people don't know. Okay. Bells. All the churches had them, schoolhouses. I mean, bells were a really big thing, but they were a big thing for many, many, many centuries in, the old world. But everybody said, well, when the war came, they had to be used for the war effort. They came down and that was it. However, they started finding caches of bells that were
Wow.
buried. You know what bells were believed to be able to do in the ancient world, and why they had them? It wasn't just, it was the frequency they gave off could ward off the demonic. So you think you got something going on, you could just ding, 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 or the different types of bells. the different metals would do different things. So when you experiment with bells, you could, use like tuning forks and you could try the different bells. But it's at a point where now it's just like something negative comes into your space, you can most certainly use a bell to banish it. That's the idea. But why did
Yeah.
they hide them all? Sure.
That,
Well, I mean, it gives you, gives a good exorcist a good job. But there was definitely different reasons for that, and
yeah.
the fact that
Yeah.
they were all buried. Why did they bury them? If they didn't use them
Yeah.
for the war effort, why did they bury them? Some of these bells were colossal.
Wow.
They were so big. Well, you think the old bell towers. Can you imagine if you had to bury something that came out of Notre Dame?
So my question is what war are you talking about?
Were they what? Sorry?
What war 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 are
I
you
think it was
talking?
I think it was World War II, if I'm not mistaken.
That would only
Um,
make sense
intention to
because
lower our vibration.
they started recording things at a 440 frequency. That's where that whole concept came.
Well,
And
they
then
changed it.
all recordings went to 44
Hmm.
instead of 432, which is a
That's
natural heart frequency.
that's
Of
right.
course, these really cool bands like the Grateful Dead started tuning into that and saying, "We're going back to 432."
As it's meant
Fuck with
to
that.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Interesting enough, in 680 AD, that's when the current building of Rennes Le Chateau's foundation was set.
Hmm.
And one of the things about the characteristics about that building is they made it to a specific size inside. And we're talking to the milliliter, and this is in 680
Hmm.
AD, to where the whole building resonates a 432's frequency when you ring a bell in it.
Hmm.
And
There we
literally,
go.
when the church bells ring in that church
Hmm.
by the hour,
Hmm.
and you're particularly at particular places,
Hmm.
particularly the ones when you're aligned with these two certain specific statues, one of Jesus and one of Joseph of Arimathea,
Hmm.
both holding babies, which is another
Yeah.
intriguing story. Uh, but your whole body resonates with that. And once you got to get that vibration, it doesn't matter where you are at Rennes Le Chateau. You
Hmm.
feel that vibration, and it just kind of reminds you
Hmm.
of the inner peace you have in yourself.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so many tidbits of that church. Well, I'll
Hmm.
tell you, this is my favorite mystery. There's tons of them, but they have these patterns in RLC or Rennes Le Chateau in other churches where there'd be a pattern of 64 parts,
Hmm.
and always one is incomplete or missing.
Hmm.
It's the missing 164th. And what that is, what that means is that 164th is the God within you. The 63 of the 64 are you.
Hmm.
And so we always have God within us. And
Hmm.
it's a separate, almost like they're trying to say it's a separate being of you, but it is you.
Hmm.
And of course, the journey is to try to
Hmm.
get that together and, get that going, And so
Hmm.
I found that to be an intriguing concept. So I went into a muscle testing exercise.
Hmm.
I just asked my body, and if it expands, it's a yes. If it doesn't expand and it's flat, it's a no. But
Hmm.
it's basically muscle testing, applied kinesiology.
Hmm.
So I was asking the question, and I'll ask this to all the audience before I tell you the story. Where's the God space within you? What part of your body holds God consciousness?
Hmm. Most people would say the heart.
Eh.
Damn.
The heart is really a great place. Not to
Yes.
knock it. Uh, I contemplate lately that the heart is like our own source of sun energy. But
Mm-hmm.
that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
What it really came down to was, I went through all the parts, but I work a lot as a shaman when I get to the most repressed memories of people of like when they turned their magic off. You
Mm-hmm.
know, what part holds that real core essence in childhood
Mm-hmm.
that gets turned off? You know, and we quit being us and we start, you know, being what we think others expect us to be.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, drum roll, the left ovary. And of course, for men, it'd be the left ovary space where our testicles, if you pushed your
Mm-hmm.
testicle up into your
Mm-hmm.
body, it would go up in this little space, but that's about where the ovary is.
Mm-hmm.
So the ovaries are all about creating life forms, all kinds of life forms,
Mm-hmm.
energetically speaking. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Now, you're
the
speaking from an energetic standpoint.
totally
Just so everybody
energetic,
knows.
no energetic. There's nothing
Just so everybody knows.
scientific about this.
Yes.
So it has, but ovaries are big about creating life
Yes.
forms with babies and stuff. There's always a practical point with this.
Yes.
So you're right when it's more the logistical side of creating life forms or creating things. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
if I'm smart enough and I do this amount of work and I believe in myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get the job done. I'll make it happen. And that's
Yes.
how
Right.
most people do it. Like it's kind of like a force and effort type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
On the left side, this is all about nurturing,
Mm-hmm.
self-love, a non-linear reality that things just pop up
Mm-hmm.
when they're ready to come to us. You know, it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the God space is.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Uh,
It's interesting. It's interesting. We know because we've applied different things even in the work that we've done,
yeah.
and it's funny because I have an elderly friend and who used to speak the same language, which was quite new for me, going back a few years when I was asked to assist him. And it was so incredible. It was just a whole other technique that I was not aware of. And he'd say, like, all this. Why aren't you applying it? I'm like, I don't fucking know any of this. Like, I was honest. Like, I did not know what you were freaking talking about.
And
But
he's probably saying, honey, you're a natural. Just
it's just
shut up and
true.
do it.
It's true. It pretty much apparently was a thing because he'd say, I want you to call me. We talk once or twice a week. And he would just like say, okay, well, just tap in. And I go, okay. And he would just teach me how to do things. And it was all so simple. And I'm going, that's it. I could have been doing this all this time. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then when you and I started working together, I'm just like, and you're talking the same language. I'm like, oh, for Pete's sakes. Okay, where have I been all this time? Because when I apply things like that, it's just with thought. There's no sort of process for me. So maybe I've been doing it all this time, just not knowing what that process was because I've never had to actually apply a process, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, when you make your invitations in life,
Mm-hmm.
or you put out questions to the world or requests, you're planting seeds of consciousness out there. And so, make them good seeds, that build and grow. And you never know where they're going to pop up or what they're going to look like,
Mm-hmm.
but they will all link together and you just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger energetically wherever
Mm-hmm.
you go. And
Mm-hmm.
invitation, questions, curiosity, and the willingness to just get the energetic of it are some of your essentials.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love France, because it is a live vibration that just knocks you out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a divine feminine energy. That's what people tell me that live there. It's this, that it just feels so feminine and soft. And I've never been at any place like that,
Mm-hmm.
exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the closest place, and this is really odd place, is Lake Washita in Arkansas.
Hmm.
But of course,
Of all places,
of
yeah.
all places,
I
'cause
thought
it's
you'd come out with like Mount Shasta, something like really
no,
bam,
I know that's a very gentle place too. It's very gentle, but it's
Yeah.
so funny here at Lake Washita because it's a crystal lake, and all
Mhm.
these crystals are in the earth and at the
Yeah.
bottom of the lake, and it's highly crystallized. And then you're surrounded by a Baptist Bible college and all of these people with shotguns saying, "If you step foot on my land, I'll shoot you." You know, it's just it's
Yeah.
just an interesting paradox there.
Mm.
None of that happens in France. I've never been like, accused or attacked or anything
Mm.
by the French people
Mm.
because I was on their land or anything. They just kind of look at you like, oh, hi.
Okay, there's another one.
Yeah.
It's got to be everybody. You go
Yeah.
visit because you can't help yourself with
Oddly
some of
enough,
these things.
most of the time when you go to a power spot, nobody's there. It's not like Sedona where all of
Mm.
these tourists are happening. Uh,
Mm.
the one
Mhm.
thing I've learned about the French are, is they keep their secrets well. And you
Mhm.
have to dig and you have to look and you have to explore and find things. And people tell you stuff
Mhm.
all the time. And it's slowly come. I've been doing this process for 11 years.
Wow.
Um, so,
Yes.
you know,
And your tours can last like days
yeah,
on
yeah,
end,
10, 11 days. I tell you, I'm tired by them and they are too. Because if you can imagine getting maxed out 2 or 3 times a day
Mm.
energetically,
Mhm.
and you're doing it day in and day out, you get tired. You
Mm.
get all you can handle.
Mhm.
And to me, I think that's a healthy way to do it because your body can expand that much. And
Mhm.
as I was taught as an energy worker when I first started out, because I was going, well, I'm really spacey here. Should I take a break from doing all of this energy work? And they go, no, make your body energetically bigger. Make your
Mhm.
body so big that it is as big as what you're taking in. And therefore, you'll be alert. You'll be
Mhm.
um, having all of this. And I think this is a good lesson for life with everybody
Mhm.
is to make it bigger. And if you're like
Which is
thinking,
energetically speaking, again, just
yeah, yeah.
expanding. Yeah.
If you're thinking you're having way too many senior moments with forgetfulness, uh, I think your body is getting slower. It doesn't have as much energy.
Mhm.
You've gotten in too many routines,
Mhm.
and you need to shake it up and pull more energy into your body. By God,
Mhm. Mhm.
make your
No.
life wild.
Whoa. Wayne, you listening? He's always so tired and forgetful. It's just like you gotta expand, make it bigger.
Yeah, well, I think it takes more work and
Yeah.
more energy to do routines, even though the brain wants to do routines and wants you to
Mhm.
do things in the
Mhm.
same way because that takes less energy,
Mhm.
but you're actually turning off this infinite source of energy that's flowing through you every day. I
Mhm.
mean, you are electric beings. You've got
Mhm.
so much going on inside of you that you could power a small city if you could learn how to
I can
access all of
attest
that
to
energy.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's that's what you're looking for.
Mhm.
Is
I think you
yeah,
just get so used to it too. Like when you do things,
yeah,
energy wise, if you get used to it, it's like I don't ever feel tired after some of that stuff. I'm just like, okay, because we have to do this. Okay, okay, it's
yeah.
done. It's done. It's like what? Yeah, I'm good. Just because
Uh,
if you apply it, you believe it, you manifest it, you apply it, and it just becomes such a natural part of who you are and who you're becoming. It's a state of evolution,
it is.
right? And
And that's what
that's
we have to know right now in this day of that we're, on the precipice of this
mhm,
Aquarian makeover. And
mhm,
I totally am totally curious of what all of this is going to look like. I've
mhm.
been told for 30 years now, it's coming, it's here, it's here. It's on the
That's right.
precipice.
Yeah, mhm.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's just like, well, maybe we should forget all of that and just say, I'm going to make my energy bigger every day and
Mhm.
just become it
Mhm. Mhm.
all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. It definitely takes some practice. But I think you have to be getting to a point where you really you really have to be it. I don't just think you can you can't just what I say like play it. You know what I
Mm,
mean? You
yeah,
have to be it.
you
Right? And
really
it's
do. You have to embody it and feel
yes.
this
Thank you.
vibration inside of you. Just
Mhm.
think about all of these energies, whether it be a tree or your rosary bead or the sun or a power spot or the Giza pyramid, and the list
Mm.
goes on and on. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
random in my examples.
Mhm.
They're all languages, and you're just
Mhm.
learning this incredible language because I would think that if you were like Buddha sitting under this tree
Mhm.
and you went into the embodiment about, well, what was he doing all day?
Mm.
My guess is that he was going into the earth and exploring all of these realities within the earth. He was
Mhm.
traveling, his breath was going down and embodying all of this stuff.
Mhm.
Information was coming in, wisdom was showing up because he was exposed to higher vibrations. And so
Mhm.
naturally, when he spoke, good
Mhm.
stuff came out. He didn't even have to read a book, most likely.
Yes. Yes. I think
But
we learn a lot from, those who came before us. And so many of us on this network, we do some kind, on an average, a lot of us do some kind of work within the field of everything that we so often talk about. And we are paying it forward, we are passing it on, we're sharing so much of ourselves. And with in a world where so much has been kept from us,
yeah,
through
it comes down to a seven letter word.
yes.
Starts with S. Service.
Yes, exactly. Service to others is a really big thing. And I've had spirits say to me, I'm like, well, what is it you want me to do? Just serve. And
Mm,
it's really is that simple. It's the law of one, the law of attraction. Like we're all in this together. So if you have an incredible ability or you're being you have incredible knowledge being shared with you from somewhere else. You want to pass that on. I want everybody to benefit from the incredible things that I experience as per the ether, so to speak, because we all have the ability to tap into it. We all have the ability to learn it and apply it. You just, I believe we all come here with this, but we come here with a bout of amnesia. And it's like, oh, why? And some of us never, ever, it's never opened up in us again. So there are those of us, though, who get back on the bicycle because once you learn how to ride a bike, you don't forget. So from one life to the next, you just have to find a way to get back on the bike and tap back in and then continue that evolution and passing that on.
indeed. And well, actually, this came up to me, and I got it confirmed by William Henry, who was on my show this week. What
Mm-hmm.
a what a what a stud! I tell you that
Look at you go, Bart.
I tell you that guy has so much information. He's amazing. But we both talk about this thing called the divine spark within the second chakra. It's
Mm,
like in every chakra there's a source point of like 1,064 cells, which is like the essence of what you are in that chakra. And
mhm,
so the divine spark is about all the possibilities you could become in this lifetime.
mhm,
It's like all of your energies of your causal body, of all the memories of everything you've done. It can, expand in this lifetime. And
mhm,
so, you might be asking to meditate on that part and
mhm,
start asking for more of you to start showing up.
mhm,
I'm always asking, and I never know how it's going to show up.
mhm,
But in this consciousness drive in the last 15 years of doing energy work, maybe getting to 20, I changed radically. You wouldn't know this guy 20 years ago. You'd think, God, what a wimp, loser type
Do you know
of
how many
guy.
people say that though? Like you evolved to this point, like, yeah, but it was just a real, you know, asshat back then. And we're just like, I don't
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
it. I can't
yeah.
picture you being that way. Like,
Well,
I,
yeah,
I, I can't.
I walked through life hoping nobody would squash me. It's not a, and you start to learn what power and anger really are. And anger is an energy to take action when something is unsatisfying. And that's all it is like you move forward and you get that, but you learn to walk with that in a positive way.
Mm,
And then you start to learn what power is, which is the belief that inside of you
mm,
it generates. We're talking about leftover reality,
mm, mm,
heart reality, all of these places that this
mm,
all generates from, and it's all turned on. That
mm-hmm,
space inside of your body is bigger because
mm-hmm,
you've brought in all of these different energies. It's more than intellect. I'm not a smart guy.
mm-hmm,
I don't see myself as a smart guy. I can't
mm-hmm.
tell you cool facts and figures and dates. I'm lucky enough to remember your name, but this energy stuff, I'm into
Mm.
it.
Well, and you're darn good at it.
Well, it's just such a different contrast. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
I don't even think it's Alzheimer's. It's like you expand so much that the information that most people find important, like, I don't know, the history of the United States or, whatever, government or whatever, it's
mm-hmm,
just not as relevant to know all of those facts and figures.
mm-hmm,
You'll research it if you need to, but something
mm-hmm,
else shows up. I mean, the spontaneousness of it. I mean,
mm-hmm,
you always amaze me how you have this balance between those both worlds. But when you start to know whose energetic space Michelle is, it's huge. I don't meet many people that have that hugeness that you do.
mm. Thank you.
It's
I
it's
think.
it's big. Yeah, it is. It
Because
is.
you're a weirdo, Michelle. That's okay.
It doesn't
No.
mean you have to wear,
It's like, yeah.
larger size dresses or anything. It
No.
just means
Yeah.
you got a big energetic space, and you meet these people, and generally they kind of knock you down. I mean,
Mm.
with it, or they're huge. I mean, Amichi's that way. The woman fills up I could feel her the first time I met her a half a mile away. Like,
Yes.
damn, this
Mhm.
woman's got it. She's packing it. You know,
So what causes that? Just asking for a friend. What causes somebody to have that sort of an energy?
practice, practice.
Mm,
When we think about Amichi's life,
mhm,
she was kind of a rejected child.
mhm,
Uh, and of course, she is the incarnation of Shakti.
mhm,
And she didn't know it at the time. She
mhm,
was just a kid. And
mhm,
by the time she got to her teenage years, they sent her to live in the barn with the goats and sheep and horses and stuff.
mhm, mhm,
And she became in spiritual harmony because she learned that love could be
mhm,
shared with animals at a deep level. And she practiced that deepness with the plants, the trees, the animals.
mm,
And then people started noticing her.
mhm,
And then she started getting educated, and it sparked her imagination to go even farther.
mhm,
And she's the best example. I tell this story a lot,
mhm,
and I'll tell it one more time. I went to see Amachi in Dallas, and
mhm,
I decided I'm going to go into Amachi's world because I have this ability to feel into other people's bodies.
mhm.
And, this is kind of being naughty because I didn't have permission, but I thought since
Oh
she's a
boy.
goddess type, I
Yeah.
kind of, can. And so I traveled in, and all I saw was this sun-like light where her heart was. And I thought, wow, that's a place to go to.
Mhm,
Started traveling, didn't get any closer. I made my consciousness like a spaceship and went to warp speed.
Mm.
Didn't get any closer. Kept going like that for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, wait a minute, she's beyond time and space. And
Mm.
so we want to start practicing making our energetic embodiment, that means this little chest cavity you have here,
Mm-hmm.
as big as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And imagining that there is that reality in you, as big as the solar system, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know,
That's
commune
pretty
with,
incredible.
yeah, commune with the earth. Send love
Mm-hmm.
out to every place in the city you live.
Mm-hmm.
Or send out heart energy. You don't want to define it as love. You just go, I got this expanded energy. I'm going to generate
Mm-hmm.
it in my heart. I'm going to expand it out. What you're
Mm-hmm.
doing is telling your body that you're that big.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the beginning exercises, and you always feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
I have a question. Wayne says, "Do you think this energy can be that strong naturally?"
Yeah.
Who are you asking for?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so you
I
know.
mean, it
Yeah.
can, but you
Yeah.
have to you have to convince your brain that it's actually happening.
Right.
You have
Yes.
to believe you. That's why sometimes when kids do this stuff that just knocks us over, they're not thinking. As
No, it's very
adults,
natural.
we have
Yes.
to relearn it.
Yes.
Most likely. I mean, I mentioned there's people that are
Mm-hmm.
different,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's why I like to go to these places. And and there's this one church. This is kind of like I think my favorite church. It's called Saint Salvaire, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, up
Mm-hmm.
on this big hill, and you have to drive on this narrow little road. And if you meet a farm tractor on it, makes you skip a heartbeat when you almost miss it by 2 inches. It
Mm-hmm.
passes you by. It's that type of narrow road. But you get up there to this church, 2,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
There's a legend, and this is just a legend, a myth. I don't want to scar up anybody's hackles, but they say Jesus died here.
Oh,
and
wow.
and to avoid all the theory of avoid all of that
Mm-hmm.
story. But what I do know is that when you touch that altar and ask for the presence of Yeshua to come up, he comes in. And
Mm-hmm.
people will tell me, oh, I just feel lighter, or I feel my crown open up and my heart expand. And then other people go, no, I'm talking to Jesus. I feel his presence here. And then
Mm-hmm.
they open their mouth and something comes out that's not them. It happens at all levels.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite though is like I was leading this feminist group, and they were like 60s women in their 60s. Uh, and they're all professionals, all independent, wonderful group. But they were very Magdalene people, and they weren't for sure about this Jesus guy.
Oh, boy.
And I'm watching this woman in this church, and she starts shaking, and her hips start shaking, and she just gets sweaty, and
She's like, please don't die on my tour. My tour. Please
I
don't die on my
know, I
tour.
know. She looked
Oh,
really
boy.
happy,
You're in
just
the
this
middle
big
of nowhere.
smile on her face. And all
Yes.
she could tell me was like, I have a new relationship with Jesus. And
Wow.
I just thinking she must have had a Jesus orgasm or something. And,
Uh-oh.
she wasn't telling me about it. But, it was pretty funny. But this church has this energy coming in from the altar, but on the opposite side is a post, and it looks like a post that almost is petrified. It looks that old.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like something you would tie a mule to for the night. And you would come into this church as a hospital a long time ago. And that's where Jesus died. They were traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Mary Magdalene were there. He died. And, they buried him outside, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to shake everything up. Anyway,
that's the story. Yeah.
that's the post goes down into the earth energetically. And so your people will say, well, I felt Magdalene there. I felt Sophia. I felt Gaia. I felt the earth,
Mm-hmm.
And it shook under my feet.
So are we just talking portal energy?
They're both coming in like this. It's like this isn't a church, a very, very small church. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a launching pad.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you notice on the outside of the church, there's these figures that are carved on each corner. Four figures. One of them is a winged bull. One is a winged eagle. Another a lion, and one a man. And legend is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But let's just skip that out. What Lars Moltz calls them
Mm-hmm.
is the chariots of fire. And they are transporters of beings from higher realms to this realm.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask the chariots of fire to come in, and they'll bring in Jesus, they'll bring in Melchizedek, they will bring in anybody. It doesn't matter. Eloquent angels, it's all on their list. They are a transport system. And this little bitty church that is a cross, almost like, kind of reminds you of a cross that's a spaceship or something. But that's my own image. But to me, it's a launching pad, and you launch in the reality, the higher realms, realities of earth realms, and they all come in and intermix together. And you go in there and you just sail. Of course, none of this was to my knowledge when I first started coming. This is a practice that you learn tools. People will come and give you an idea, and you go, wow, that's neat. Let's try that. And they slowly kind of conglomerate into something, of a bigger chemistry.
Yeah.
So that's a really great example of, how sacred sites in general work. Is you want to keep experimenting with them. You want to ask questions. You want to take your presence, what's inside of you, and take it into the site itself, and see what shows up in your body, and see what you see in your vision. And when I'm talking about your vision, I mean your unseen vision, your non-seeing vision. And you may go, well, I don't have that. Well, you don't know if you don't have it unless you try. Because a lot of this stuff, of this psychic stuff, most of us learn by accident and being dumb enough to go, well, I'll just try that, and by the time we try it, and we go, what the heck?
What did I just do? And you can't recreate it.
Yeah. And then you start looking like a genius, but actually you did it by making mistakes and being willing to try, and most importantly, trust. Be curious. And so St. Salvaire is one of those magical places that so many people have great experiences and great stories, whether they're with me or they go on their own. I've heard all kinds of experiences, and people treat it differently. But they're kind of like launching pads of your greater being. And we just have to go out and experiment, and be curious, and that can be in your own home.
Yes. That's I find it extremely fascinating. It just goes to show you that you find this in the most obscure little place. People expect things like, oh, Stonehenge, or many of the old ancient henges, or some of these big cathedrals or churches, or some of these old, like the mountains, and where the ancients would actually gravitate to. But you don't think, here's this little church off the beaten path that ends up being this incredible power spot that gives you this incredible experience, like this woman being so overwhelmed with this Jesus energy, going, what just hit me? Did anybody get the plate number of that truck? Like, it's just, because it's just such a powerful energy, which can be found pretty much anywhere.
A great author, and I want to address this. I saw this question. Two things here. The statue at Rennes Le Chateau, there's a demon, is called Asmos. Asmodeus, and he is it could be she. We haven't looked down below, but this is representative of the Celts that are kind of the native people of that area of France, the Celtic people, that life is a struggle and it's hard. That's what that is. And other people say it's the devil, but it represents the earth.
Because he's holding it up on his shoulders, isn't he?
Right, right. But actually, it's a blessing site. When you walk into Rennes Le Chateau, you have the earth, you have the earth, which is Azamos, the devil, comes from the earth. You have a holy water bowl, and then you have a salamander, which is fire, and then you have 4 angels, which is air, and then above that
elements.
you have a cross. So you're being blessed by the elements when you walk into that church. That's the whole purpose of that.
The church is incredible.
Yeah.
The energy in that church is just incredible.
It knocks you off. And that's not even the main power spot there.
No.
Michelle and I have, Michelle and I, this is some of the work we discovered. We discovered that there was the purpose of Rennes Le Chateau, and I brought this up a couple of times in the show, and maybe it's time to tell the story about it. And we can't tell too much because it's a French secret. But we were saying, what is the purpose of Rennes Le Chateau? And one of us came up with the idea that it's a beacon. That's a beacon of consciousness. And you brought up that day a Henry Lincoln concept. 2 different men, I tell you.
Yeah.
We won't even start there. But Henry said that there was a grand triangle of Mount Sinai, the powerful Mount Sinai. There's 2.
Like the real, yeah.
And then there's the Bomborg Islands in Denmark and Rennes Le Chateau, and this is a super triangle. Sinai is the power spot, the golden mountain, so to speak. Gets you in a lot of trouble if you don't use it correctly, by the way, folks. Then the grounding point is the Bomborg Islands in Denmark. It's this little bitty island that has all of these methalithic stones and stuff. It's just full of them. And then Chateau is what beacons this out to the world or something. We don't know how big it goes, but it's multidimensional. It's high vibration. It rocks you. And so after we figured that out, I was in the States at the time, go to France. And of course, a few days there, curiosity is dying. So
I know. I said, okay, Bart, boots on the ground. Get over there and check it out.
Yeah, I wander around and go, well, I wonder what this beacon's point.
I'm not going back anytime soon. Get your butt over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like an invisible beacon that is multidimensional. It feels like it's full of gold, like from Mount Sinai, like duh. Just like my friend's apartment or house has that under the cave. It's full of gold energy. And it's just like, my God, this is incredible. And it's on private property, but I have been able to stand in it a few times. And you feel like you've taken some sort of hallucinogenic drug and it just hits you in like 2 seconds. It's that expanding with that. And of course, some of my psychic friends that live on the Rennes Le Chateau, I go, do you know what this? And they're going, oh yeah. Like it's kind of like a secret amongst the locals, the psychic locals.
Yes.
That are in the know, the hip crowd, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. We know with the beacon.
The in crowd, yeah.
Saturday nights,
the cool kids.
Dance out there. In the spirit. Yeah.
The cool kids all know about it.
I can never imagine some of those people doing that.
No.
It's actually more than I want to know. So yeah, there's all of these places like that. Annie Williams talks about a site west of France in Spain, where these 2 ley lines cross, and they're Magdelaine ley lines. There's a small church there, and she says that there's 6 Templar fortresses around it, all hidden and put up there and built to, you would say, well, they're not trying to protect it because there's nothing to protect. It's a little bitty church in the middle of nowhere, but it really starts to give you some hints to how spiritual these guys were, what really mattered to them.
Everything was connected, but they somehow knew that everything was connected. I think there's incredible places all over the world. I've been to some incredible places. I've been to the pyramids. I've been in many places, ancient places in the world. Very fortunate. And Scotland, I loved Scotland. I just found, oh my gosh, in England, I've not been to Stonehenge. It's always a place that, oh my gosh, it's an incredible place. I've had friends who have been, but I do wear Priscilla stone, which is what many of the stones are made out of, is the Priscilla stone. I
Right, the
wear it,
bluestone.
yeah, the blue stone, because I can draw from its energy because it's where it came from. So you'll sometimes, even with work, sometimes you'll just see me like hanging on to it. I'll rub the stone all the time. And I wear different stones, for the same reason, to give me that, so I could tap to that energy and try to pick up, a lot from it. And yes, the Highlands. Oh, get me started on the Highlands. I love the Highlands. It's one of those places that, and speaking of stones, I'm always bloody like touching everything because I want to feel what it feels like. I want to pick up on that resonance. I'm in the fairy circle. It's just like gonna touch stones, but I always leave things, in exchange. But it's just like you just want to absorb the energy. You
Yeah.
just want to, and that's everywhere, right?
Yeah, and it just happens in the strangest places. I mean, when you go into a very old church,
Mm-hmm.
it's been prayed in a lot,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah,
going to be a certain vibration
the
that
energy.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or this yoga studio that I teach classes at Casa de Luz in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
We have all kinds of metaphysical classes going in there, and I'm summoning twice a week now while I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the United States. And that room has become very electric. We've seen it evolve with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I think it's also one of the reasons Black Madonnas are so powerful. People have prayed to them so much. And we're talking, a young Black Madonna is 13th century,
Mm-hmm.
and that's 700 years old. Other
Mm-hmm.
ones are ancient that we do not know where they originated from, who
Mm-hmm.
was praying to them before the Catholics got a hold of them.
Mm-hmm.
Some say they're from Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
others other places unidentifiable. A lot of them mysteriously appear in a cave or a field or
Mm-hmm.
something. They
Mm-hmm.
always have a very entertaining story,
Mm-hmm.
but they have been prayed for centuries, and they have a almost like a space that when you perceive into them, you perceive nothingness
Mm-hmm.
inside of them, and it's just a most unique power.
Mm-hmm.
Much
Mm-hmm.
like if you are an enlightened soul, what would you feel like? And Amachi's my litmus test. If I could do what Amma does,
Mm-hmm.
she feels like nothing. She feels so light and non-resistant
Mm-hmm.
that everything flows right through her.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a tremendously wonderful space.
Mm-hmm. We're all incredible beings. And,
Yeah.
I think we just need to be reminded how to tap back in. Is all. Oh, hold on. There we go. Some say that they were first African deities that were converted to Christianity.
Well, I don't think you can convert wood to Christianity, but yeah, I agree
Mhm.
with you. Um, you know, they're ancient.
Mhm.
In Africa and Egypt had
Mhm.
this very interesting relationship.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're probably spot on.
It's incredible, and I think there's a lot of secrets out there that I mean, Egypt is believed to have stemmed from the Atlanteans. So you're getting into some more really ancient stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people that they've proven now that the Sphinx is older than what they originated. It's older than 10,000 years old. So just think about how far back that goes and how evolved those people were. There's something to be said for
Yeah.
that. The ancient mystery schools. There's a lot. from the ancient world that we're not made privy to. And some of us are just starting to learn about it, and some of us will never know about it. But there's nothing stopping you, from working. If you can't find all that knowledge, you surely can find knowledge within yourself and how to use
Yeah.
your own energy. The rest will follow.
And that's really the whole important part. I mean, is these places or even trees in your backyard. I don't say like ones that you buy from a hardware store or something. Those you had to acclimate back into nature and then
Mhm.
they become natural. But when you're talking about a natural forest,
Mhm.
those have been, they've been birthed differently than from a box or something. They have a different vibration, but all of these things teach us, and that's the whole purpose of these power spots, or maybe not the purpose, but one of the ways we can access them now
Mhm.
is to learn how to be more,
Mhm.
vibrationally expanded.
Mhm.
And we have plenty of them in the U.S. and Canada, and
Mhm.
my God, Mexico is full of them,
Mhm.
including all of those great volcanoes that just shock you. I mean,
Mhm.
whenever I go to Mexico, I'm just totally turned on.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
the energy is that's what I'm saying. There's just it's all so different. As similar as it is because it's still an energy spot. It's so different because it resonates with all of the people and the history, of the location. It's just a different experience. You can go through the whole country and have a different experience at every one. So
you
let me
really
ask you
can.
this. Let me ask you this for people who aren't familiar. How do you spot a power spot?
You feel it inside of you,
Okay.
is one really great way. In other words, when you're around things, and I think there's obvious things like something that looks different.
Hmm.
There's a different structure there because usually they'll have something that is a carving or something that doesn't make sense, and you start touching different things and seeing if your body responds to it.
Hmm.
I'm asking lots of questions, but also I might want to make my own embodiment bigger just to begin with. So maybe asking my angels to be right next to me and help me feel this.
Hmm.
I tune into the earth and like pull the vibration of the ground into my body so
Hmm.
I'm more aware in the moment.
Hmm.
And I'm not trying to think, I'm trying to perceive the vibrations inside of my body.
Hmm.
Because whatever my body changes to in that moment,
Hmm.
that's likely what I'm focused on when I touch a rock or I look at a rock or touch a tree. That's a resonance.
Hmm.
And so that happens.
Hmm.
And sometimes uh, it's all by mistakes. I mean, we've been trying to figure out this one power spot we knew as a power spot, and it was these rocks in the ground, and they looked like they'd been there forever, and they went in a spiral, big spiral, and in the end of the spiral pointed to this other big rock that had a cross carved in it.
Hmm.
And the cross is when you're in this woods in this area. If you see a cross carved into a stone, that's generally a stone that has a high vibration.
Hmm.
Good thing to know when you're wandering in the woods.
Hmm.
So we go to the center of the spiral, and this is by this woman that, you know, surprised me so much. And she just started chanting and doing this weird noises. And all of a sudden, my God, the whole forest lit up in a totally higher vibration I never experienced before.
Wow. And
I,
so she wasn't aware that she could do this. She just instinctively started doing this?
Kind of, that was her thing. She liked to chant and do these really weird
Okay.
sounds. And
Okay.
and that seems to be popular over there of people
Mm.
that chant, and now I've taken that on by doing American Indian chants because
Mm.
I'm
Mhm.
American Indian. It only makes sense.
Mhm.
But I've seen a lot of power spots get bigger energetically when I chant into the power spot itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's another technique. But I'm always also feeling what's inside of my body while I'm at a place. So it always feels like when I get into that mode, like let's find out what this is.
Mm-hmm.
My intensity goes up, 100% or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in that magic space. And I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
It's just interesting what's shown up over the years with
Mm-hmm.
that, and it grows. You learn stuff if you just keep on going and you keep experimenting and being curious.
And you're still evolving. I mean,
Yeah.
you consider yourself to be, to still be a student, no matter
Oh
how
yeah.
much you're still learning. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I am probably. I probably, of all my friends and all the people I know, I probably spend log more hours in than most people I know. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know anybody that does more than me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
always going. I'm a tourist. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't lost that tourist attitude. And,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm not caught up into the French life because I'm not French. So
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do with my time?
Mm.
I
Well,
keep going.
yes. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, I think, when you're in an area and you look at the locals, they're so used to all of it that
Yeah.
it's like, oh, what, that old thing again? you know,
Yeah,
whereas,
exactly.
whereas some of us are just like, oh, I wish I could be here like every day to
Yeah.
see this. So,
Yeah. Well, I think they get caught up in the legends and the stories.
mhm,
And they go, oh, well, that's the old sacred tower in 646. King Charlemagne came there, and it's
yeah.
like, oh, and they just leave it there. That's their definition of it.
Hmm.
And we're looking at it with new eyes and going, this is magic.
Hmm.
Let's find what the magic is.
Hmm.
And it's just so strange how it starts to show up.
Hmm. Here. Question, Bart, is there an area that you would advise people not to go?
Texas. No.
Awful cold these days, too.
No, I
Oh.
like Austin, Texas. Texas is my home. I'm a sixth generation Texan.
Right.
But in France, boy, that's just, you know, I just, all of it's so good. I say that you should avoid defining anything as good or bad energy. Some of the churches that are very masculine,
Hmm.
that you think, oh, there's no magic here.
Mm.
As soon as you make that judgment and that discernment, you turn yourself off to it, as opposed
Mm.
to, no, this is part of it. What message does it have for me?
Mm.
And see if it will open up for you.
Mhm.
But as far as places that I say is energetically yucky, Albie, that was one that was kind of weird. Albie
Mhm.
energy, because basically it's this big cathedral in Albie, and it looks like a fortress.
Mm.
But this is where 1,200 Cathars came, and they asked for asylum, and they killed them all. And I
Ooh,
don't
that's a tough
think
one.
that's been cleared out.
That's
Oddly
like
enough,
Carcassonne with 20,000 people.
yeah, and maybe those places, but those, you don't want to define that as good and bad energy. You
No,
might, you might, if you go into a place like that, you might
Mont
think, well,
Seigneur. Yeah.
entities might be attracted to that vibration,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
people who go there kind of resonate with that. And so entities want people that are angry or addicted or worrisome or
Mm.
fearful, or they're stuck in a negative energy. And of course, some they might be attracted to go to Albi because that resonates with them. So
Mhm.
entities will go, this is a great restaurant,
Mhm.
and so they attach to you from that
Yes.
place. So if you go to a place like that, you might want
Mhm.
to ask your angels to be with you and protect you, or you learn how to clear entities, one of the two or both.
Mm. Mhm.
But it's strange how those things work, because Chateau Montségur had the famous, sacrificial burning of the 200 so Cathars there.
Yes.
And even though that hole's there, even before the curse was finally expired in 2021, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was like
Uh,
what, 700 years or seven
yeah,
something years.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the big curse. But
Yes.
that place changed. It's become much lighter. But before it became lighter, there was so much hope and worship and promise of people, you know, wanting to change that place that it kind of didn't have entities or anything. It was
Well,
like a
but
neutral
maybe
site, so to
somebody
speak.
cleared it, Bart.
I think hundreds of people have cleared it. Hundreds of
Mm.
people come in there to clear that curse. By God, I'm going to be the one. But I don't think anybody really ever cleared it until that curse was good and ready to be
Mm-hmm.
relinquished by the person
Mm-hmm.
who set it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
He must have had some kind of powerful mojo in order to do that.
Jacques de Molay did it.
Oh God, I wouldn't fuck with him. Oops.
Oh, it's okay. You're with the boss, but oh, Bart.
Sorry.
No. Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, we're right at the top of the hour. So, this is the part where you promote yourself, promote the tours, your website, your show. Just go, go, go.
Okay. I do Mary Magdalene France tours.
Mhm.
That's the name of my website. And I have all my tours are full for this year except my September tour, 10th
Mhm.
through the 20th. I'm writing a book called The Wild Feminine of Bugarash, where I talk about all of these memoirs and stories similar to what I've been talking about. And yeah, also
Mhm.
I'm on the UPRN network, and I'm a lot cleaner of a speaker. Uh,
Yeah.
Michelle brought it out in me, but no, my radio show
Blame
is
me.
on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. It's called Becoming Quantum Conscious, and the whole idea is service, that we
Mhm.
get more conscious topics up there
Mhm.
for the world to hear, and I try to
Yeah,
get.
you bring on great guests.
Yeah, I do my best. I try
Yeah,
to get interesting topics that I think bring more consciousness for the world. That's the bottom line.
you do. You absolutely do. And to clarify, it's 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, right? So, and that would make it noon Pacific time for
And
those of you on the whirly West
and if you're
Coast.
in Paris or France, it's 9 p.m. at night.
Right? See? So you could still catch it, which is ideal. Because
Yeah,
I know sometimes Bart's in Paris or out in France doing his show, which is
yep.
great. Yeah, I
Totally,
love it.
totally different energy. I try to have more European guests during
Yeah,
that time and more Americans when I'm in Austin.
yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Well, we're there, guys. So let me just chime off here. So for next week, lots of things going on next week. Tuesday on the Beyond the Outer Realm show, we're bringing on Preston Dennett, Dolly Saffron for an uncensored show on false flags in the UFO slash UAP community. And basically, they're going to tell you, what are they hiding? Why the lies? More, 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 and more. There's so much more to it. So you guys know the drill with that one, right? 2 p.m. Eastern, and we know where the archive's going to be afterwards. I'm just going to leave that right there. Wednesday night, also the return of also dear friends of mine, Jack Roth and John Semple, and both, film and documentary producers and directors, and they're going to be discussing whistleblowers, and they will, touch on one specific gentleman as well that we've been asked about in one of the documentaries that we've done. So it's going to be really, really great. You'll have to tune in for that Wednesday night. Thursday night, we welcome back something more lighthearted. Morgan Daimler returns discussing pagans and druids. Very near and dear, and I've never done it. So we're going for it. Yeah, so we're doing it. But on Wednesday, I'm going to be on with Bart. So that's going to be again 3 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff on becoming quantum conscious. So you're going to have to check that out. So in the meantime, big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring us tonight and every night that we're on. Thank you. We appreciate you so very much. Big thank you to Justin Snicker and Steve McGinnis. Also, big thank you to United Public Radio Network 105.3, 107.7. So, guys, have a terrific weekend. Thank you all to everyone in chat. You were all awesome. Mark, you're champion, 4 a.m. in the UK. I don't know how you do it after night, but we appreciate the fact that you do. So thank you. Have a good weekend. We'll see you guys Monday afternoon, and we're going to start the whole cycle again. All right. Take care.